one interaction or the first impressions. Which brings us to trick number 6.
Here's how you take over a house with no money down, no credit check, and no job in less than 60 seconds. There are sellers that have recently let their agent go. These are called expired listings. How many expired listings pop up every single week is about 75,000 real estate agents get fired from their seller every single week. I would call one of them in step number 1. I would call the seller. I would offer to take over the payments on those sellers. Our equation is that for about every 20 offers that we make, we get 1 contract. I'd make 20 offers, I'd get 1 contract. I would contract that seller. I would then determine what I want to do with that property. Do I want to wholesale it, make a quick $10,000, $15,000? Do I want to flip that house, maybe make $60,000, $70,000? Or maybe I want to live in that property or rent it out and put it in my portfolio. It truly is that simple. Those are the steps. If you want to learn how we're doing this in all 50 states, I have a case study on how we are doing this. All you have to do is click the link down below.
Be yourself everywhere. I believe people respect The Rock, Jelly Roll, Gary Vee, Oprah, Richard Branson, because they're the same person in every scenario. And it's wild for some people to think they're not, because they play different characters depending on who they're talking to. They project the way they are to other people, is what I'm telling you. The most successful people are successful because they're authentic. They are who they are. Go back. Yeah, I just want you guys all to feel really good about yourself. If you want, go back and watch other videos. I tried to play a part, a character that I wasn't. Button shirt, super smart, very articulate, never made a joke. Here's the problem. I wasn't who I am. And I would rather be hated for who I truly am than adored for someone I'm not. So here's how you can be yourself everywhere. My buddy Chris Harder has a great quote that says, sooner or later, you'll get caught being yourself. So you might as well be yourself. My other philosophy is that you don't want to dim your light if you're too much, because it hurts other people's eyes. Like, be who you are at the fullest. That person will find the other people that love that version of you. And those people will lean in and be like, I found my person. And you will just have a much happier life because you will be friends and attract people that you enjoy talking to, not that like you for a version of you that you're not. And look, if people think you're too much, politely ask them to go find less. So I understand being somebody that other people respect is tough, because sometimes you'll come across people that just disrespect you. I want you to understand is the more consistent you are around these tips and tricks, the more over time people will adjust the way they show up for you. They'll adjust the way they treat you. They'll adjust the way they think of you and how they introduce you to other people. That sets the foundation for you to be somebody that they respect, because you're consistent, you got a big heart, and you're authentically who you are. But if you struggle with feeling ambitious but lazy, click here and I'll see you on the other side.
So I left my day job when I was 24, and I have a lot of conversations with people who want to reach financial freedom in their 20s or in the next 7 to 10 years, kind of like I've done. And so in this video, I wanted to kind of give a roadmap of some proven steps that have worked for me and also worked for a bunch of other people, along with like kind of some case studies and proof that reaching financial freedom in roughly 7 years is not only possible, but it's actually pretty attainable for a lot of people, obviously depending on where you start and how extreme you're willing to go. I want to preface that it's not easy, but it is relatively simple. And this is where I started, and I think you really need to start it, is just believing that it is possible. When I first read my first financial book, which was Rich Dad Poor Dad, I started getting into the FIRE movement and learning about
all of these people who had retired in 10 to 20 years, which is generally the retirement.
This is for that third extra F1
is
coming in handy.
actually possible. There are people who don't work till they're 65 to have no money on a job that they hate and give the best parts of every week of their life to make somebody else's dreams come true. There are people who change it up, who live very differently than everybody, which is something I'm a big fan of, and who are
I'm definitely going to get one.
achieve this stuff. I saw story after story of these people who have reached freedom.
Unsure how to price your rental properties competitively in this crazy market? Avail can help you out. Avail is a complete software solution made for landlords like you. With Avail, you can price your rental competitively. Get it rented fast. Receive applications and screen tenants. Sign a lawyer-reviewed lease. And securely collect rent, all online. Sign up for free today at avail.co and start landlording like a pro.
This summer, the Zesty Keeley brothers are back on their great taste mission. Who said that? Sweet move.
Generally in their 30s. And even though for me, I ended up kind of going away from the fire movement a little bit and kind of taking a newer path that a lot more people are doing now. But we'll get to that in a second. I think the first step for most people is to brainwash yourself into believing that you can accomplish this. Because if you don't think that you're actually gonna lose weight, for example, you maybe diet for a little bit, but you're like, I'm just a fat person. I've just always had big bones or whatever. I can't stick with the diet. You just tell yourself that you're not one of those people who are able to do whatever the thing is. Then you're probably not gonna do it. You're gonna quit after a week, a month, or a year, but you're just never gonna get there. And so if you believe that it is totally possible for this to happen, that makes everything a lot easier. It makes sacrifices easier. Makes self-discipline a lot easier. It makes waking up early easier. It makes doing whatever it takes in order to get to that goal easier if you believe you can actually get to that goal and not get there in 20 years, but get there in like 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. If you think you're that close, everything else in this entire video is way easier. And how I did that personally, I think I was doing like a book a week and like a podcast a day, pretty much strictly of learning about money and all these other stories with people who had done it before me. And that way, after doing this, that was the drive to and from work. It was at work, it was at night, it was everything focused around learning about this stuff until suddenly like having good finances and reaching financial independence early was the thing that was normal to me. It was literally insane to me that you would go and spend 40 to 60 hours per week at a job that has very little upside and it's making somebody else rich. That seems kind of crazy because I brainwashed myself pretty much into believing that this was possible and doable for almost everyone. So that is going to be the first step. But it's also important to ask yourself, why are you going to do this? Because it is going to be hard, and this is not something that you do in a couple weeks or a couple months or even a couple of years. This is like a lifestyle change that you're gonna have to make some solid changes for a long time in order to see progress. There's no get rich quick. There's none of that type of stuff. It's just different choices than everybody else for like 5-10 years, and then you're different than everybody else after that. So, but in like year 1, year 3, you're gonna be like, man, this kind of stuff. This is hard. Why bother with this? Work's not all that bad. It's safe. They give you insurance. It's not terrible. I hate my boss. Like this one's better than the last one. You're gonna get there at some point. And so if you don't have a strong why of like, yes, that might be true, but I want to spend every afternoon with my kids. I never want to miss a soccer game. I don't want to stress about work. I want to enjoy what I do every single day. I don't really like what I do. I want to be able to travel. We generally take 1 month a year and travel almost every month. Besides that, and that's like something that you just can't do when you have a day job. So that why for everybody is going to be different. I'll give you, a couple of mine just for examples. Hopefully this can help you out, but you really have to come up with these yourself. And that's going to be the thing that gets you through all the hard parts, which are going to happen. But for me, it was, having time with my kids. I didn't have kids at that point, but I was like, when I do have kids, I want to be around and I want to have freedom to hang out with them as much as I want. And actually, the other one was kind of a reverse point, which is like, I don't like what I'm doing for work right now in the office building. So I remember making a lot of money during this time. Like, I don't like this, and I cannot keep doing this for the next 40 years. I just can't. So that's not an option. Staying at that job, not an option. Another job like this, not an option. And so desire towards one thing and running away from something else was what really gave me that drive to get through all the hard parts, because it's like, not buying coffee, not going out to dinner, not traveling, not doing whatever. That's so easy when it means that yes, I can spend time with my kids, and no, I don't have to do something I hate 8 hours a day. It's no brainer. So you really need to have clarity. So just take some time and find out what is it that you want to do, like lifestyle-wise, and what is it that you don't want to do lifestyle-wise. And those are going to be some of your whys, along with believing that it's possible. You're also going to have a reason why you're doing this. The next thing is what I think is kind of the most exciting, and this will give you a little bit of fire, is to find your freedom network. Now, if you think of like the FIRE movement, which is extreme for a lot of people, most people work 40 years to have no money at the end. Average American, very not fun. Great for some people, not my cup of tea. Next up, we have the FIRE movement. So the FIRE movement says that if you can save up 25 times your annual expenses, then you can live off the interest of that money forever. So if you need $40,000 a year to survive, it's like $1 million or 1.2 million or something like that. And then that money will make you $40,000 a year, and you can withdraw that every year, and you'll never run out of money. That's what the FIRE movement says. Now, I didn't make any money. I was like median income, so it was like okay for being early 20s, but never a lot of money, never six figures, nothing like that during this entire process. It was before YouTube ever took off, any of that. And so I was like, okay, well, I know that even if I save like 100% of my income, I'm gonna be like 20 years before I save $100 million. So that's just not gonna happen. If my goal is to not do something that I hate, and then also have a bunch of freedom now, spending 20 years is just as insane as spending 40 years to be able to enjoy your life. So after that kind of FIRE movement out the window, that's just not gonna work for me. So it's twice as good as working 40 years, it's twice as bad as a bunch of share. So that's why you gotta find your freedom number. So freedom number is shifting the whole idea of finances a little bit. So both regular retirement, which is kind of like the slow lane, if you think of the millionaire fast lane, what that book sort of did, or if you think of the FIRE movement, they all have this destination. Once you get here, then you enjoy your life, then you have freedom, then you retire, then you go, walk on the beach and live in the sunset, whatever. Even though there's statistics about people who reach, retirement, much more likely to die if you don't want to retire before they're Anyways, side note, I've actually reached semi-retirement, and I learned this the hard way. I took some time off, ended up just playing video games, got super depressed, and I started doing things that I like and why I'm using things. So, if retirement is no longer the goal, that actually makes reaching freedom an insane amount easier. Insane amount. And I'll let me explain why. So, the goal now is not to have no work. That's never going to be a goal of yours. You might think it's a goal. You might say, yeah, I would live on the beach. I would drink pina coladas all the time. I've known tons of people, the people who are driven enough in order to get there at an early age, get super depressed once they get there. I know somebody who literally sold his company for over $100 million. Within a couple months, he's looking for something else to do. He never needs money again for the rest of his life, but he needs to feel like he's creating something and building something. So no matter what you think that is, it's just, if you're a driven person, it's not gonna be. So if that is the case, and we're no longer looking for the $1.2 million, the ultimate amount of freedom to never work a day again, then we get to move the goalpost from 20 years down to like 5 years or 3 years. Pretty fun. And the way we do this is by saying, I'm gonna earn a little bit of money going forward. I'm gonna start some sort of business. And I'll break down the kind of steps to get there. So first off, find out your freedom number. So your freedom number, which I actually made a calculator for, you can check it out down below. It's totally free, pretty sweet. So your freedom number is just calculating what is your monthly active income that you have coming in. So you go to your day job, you have that. What is your monthly passive income or semi-passive? This is the stuff that you can work just a few hours a week to keep it running, or it's like actually passive, which is very few things. So I'm going to say it's the things that don't take a lot of work to keep the income coming in, and then you have for expenses. So let's say you spend $5,000 a month. That is a clear, tangible goal. That now, if you can find something that you enjoy doing, or multiple different streams of income that make $5,000 a month, instead of needing $1.2 million to leave your job, you can now build over the next couple of years things that will give you freedom with that freedom number. Now most of us might be like, okay, that's great. I have no way of making $5,000 a month. I don't have any skills besides one that is my main job, and that's just not even possible. Okay, thanks. Well, this is why, one, you need to lower your expenses as much as possible, and then two, you need to start something scalable. So starting off with lowering the expenses, this freedom number should really only calculate your housing, transportation, food, maybe insurance, like the very basics you need to be alive. You don't need Starbucks to be alive, you don't need stuff on Amazon to be alive, you don't need travel to be alive. Like, what are the actual basic essentials. And if you can start cutting a lot of those, which might take some time to do, then if you go from, $8,000 a month down to $4,000 a month, that amount of time that it'll take to start building up income streams to reach 4,000 versus 8,000 is like years difference of your life. So that's why like this freedom number and getting as low as possible is super, super important. Before we get to the making money side and all of these kind of that same plan. So it's not like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Like these all take years to actually start seeing the results on. It's kind of like compound interest where you're like putting in a lot of work, and then like bam, you start seeing results instantly. Or not instantly, but like it was kind of like that for me where the first 3 years of YouTube, for example, I lost money and then I started making money and then it started compounding faster. And the same thing with real estate. So the first 4 years I was literally just working full time, saving every dollar that I could, and then I got that first rental and then a huge change happened in my life. Alright, so let's just talk about saving money for a second, which lowers that freedom number, which makes everything in your life way easier. I got a rental when I was 22. It's a 3-unit multifamily. I was able to get in for 3.5% down FHA loan, which everybody in the U.S. can do if you're living in that house and you're a first-time home buyer. I was able to do that twice. Actually, it's a little more complicated anyway. That allowed me to live in one unit, rent the other 2 out, and I lived completely for free. So now, most people spend 30% of their budget on their housing. I have 0% on my house. I'm actually living completely for free, and when I was able to do that again, I was actually getting paid to live in my house. Maybe it wasn't the best, maybe there was bullet holes in my garbage can, time on the phone, whatever. But the cool thing about that is I knew that I was not there for long. I knew that I was in those kind of sketchy houses where I was renovating, I was trying to make it nice for the tenants to live in, I was making it nice for myself to live in, working every night and every weekend, fixing the place up. But I knew that that was only for like 3 years before I would be able to take the income from those and actually get myself my dream home, which is kind of like what we're at now. So it's important to remember that the sacrifices you're going to make, especially at the beginning here, they're not for long. They're for like 3 to 5 years, and then you can take your foot off the gas a little bit, enjoy your life more, travel more, do all the stuff more. But if you're willing to kind of stack up all of the sacrifices and front load them, then you're able to have enough money and freedom that you can make real progress in your life, as opposed to people who are never willing to sacrifice, live in a crappy apartment, renovate, take big risks, and do other things we're going to talk about. And those people end up staying at a more comfortable level, but they stay there forever for 4 years, as opposed to extreme discomfort and then extreme freedom is kind of the thing. And you don't need to go extreme with it, but it does help. So staying on the saving money part for a second, housing is most people's biggest expense. So I would start looking into ways to lower that, whether that's moving. Obviously, it's going to be harder if you have a family and a house, but if you're really serious about being around for your family, then maybe you sell the house. Something smaller, something cheaper, because you again realize it's for a few years, like big changes. Maybe you get rid of a newer car and drive an old either $5,000 Honda CR-V like I did, Honda Civic like I did, even though I couldn't sit up straight in it. You don't go out to dinner, you batch cook meals at home. It's actually one of the reasons I don't eat chicken anymore is because for like 3 years we ate chicken breasts, which is like the cheapest form of protein you can get, every single day. That was all I ate. Would never buy red meat, never buy fish. Everything was the cheapest ever, and now I live over chicken. That being said, we saved so much money on our food that our freedom number was incredibly low. That's how I was able to leave my job, again, at 24 with under $50,000 in savings, because I made a lot of these sacrifices that made that number so low that I only needed to earn like $20,000 a year to survive, and I had a few skills that were able to do that while working 10, 20 hours a week. And again, even that was just temporary. No, I do think it's really important here to touch on the fact that you can generally have comfort where you can have freedom, but it's very, very hard to have both. And so that's why you should really be, again, committed to learning and really just see how close you are and how close you can get to freedom. So this entire time, you start off with making sure you believe it's possible. You're learning everything you can about finances. You start lowering your expenses. For me, it took like 4 years to be able to get my first rental. I had a fixed goal in mind that once I did this, now I'll have a 30% savings rate. It'll change my life, which it did. You start making progress and all that stuff and learning. And at the same time, you're also thinking about a side hustle. Now, this is not your average side hustle. You're probably not going to make money at the beginning, which is probably not what you want to hear. But there are 2 different types of side hustles. You're going to have one, a bit like Uber Eats, where you go out, you deliver some food or whatever they do in Uber Eats, and You get paid $20. You get paid money instantly. You go, you render a service, and you get paid money. Now, the problem with any type of side hustle, second job, anything like that you will only be able to get more money when you go and trade your time for it. And you will never be able to make more money than that $20. It's not like if you do that for a year or 2 years, now you get $100 every time that you do that and you're so good at driving. It's just never going to work. So that should be kind of taken off the table as an option unless you need to do that. For the next 6 months, you can save up money to get a rental, to pay off your car, to do whatever, to lower the freedom number, but that should never be the goal. And also shouldn't be the goal when it comes to starting a business or a side hustle or anything like that. It should never be something that has a cap on it or requires you to constantly trade time, even though most things are going to a degree. I hope you so what you should be focusing on is something that is scalable. This was kind of eye-opening for me when I first realized this, that the whole compound interest effect also applies to